Happy Sunday. I hope everyone's doing well. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up. Today I'm going to show you how I made this cute welcome ladybug wreath. These are the supplies I used to make this wreath. I'm going to start by adding pipe cleaners to my 14-inch wire frame. I'm adding one at each crossbar on the center. I'm twisting 3 times, pretty tightly. After I go around and do all of the center ones, I'm going to do the outside. I start at any random crossbar. Again, twist 3 times. But instead of doing it at each crossbar, I'm going to lay the pipe cleaner along the frame. And where it ends is where I add the next one. When you're twisting on the open part, like not at the crossbar, be careful not to twist too much or it will bend your frame. I end up with a total of 14 ties. I decided to cut all my mesh at the same time. You don't have to do this because sometimes it doesn't want to cut through. I'm cutting all the mesh at 30 inches. I'm doing 14 pieces of jute mesh, 7 pieces of red, and 7 of black because I'm going to put 2 in each section, 2 pieces of the mesh. And I'm alternating the red and black, so I don't need as many as those colors. Now I'm just using my mat to measure and my rotary cutter to cut everything. And I'll go through and cut all the pieces before I start. I decided to do the woodland method on this wreath. At first I was only going to add just the woodland ruffle in and then keep going. I didn't like the way it looked. It wasn't covering as well as I wanted it to. So I decided to do like a crisscross, and I'll show you how I did that. But to do the woodland ruffle method, you basically do 3 curls, like a curl on each end, but you roll it 3 times to create a curl on one end, roll it 3 times on the other end, and then bunch it together just like you do a regular ruffle. And I'll show you that again here in a second. And then just add it into my pipe cleaner, and I'm twisting 1.5 times. And it's helpful to have something heavy to keep your mesh flat. And jute mesh curls really well. So I curl it 3 times and then I add something heavy to it, or you could clip it or hold it with your hand, whichever way is easiest for you. And then do 3 curls on the other side. And then I bunch it together like a ruffle. And you end up with curls and ruffles. It's a nice look. So I put the first woodland ruffle in horizontally, and this one I'm going to do vertically, and this just creates an X and it gives amazing coverage. And I like the way the curls kind of make a flower. It reminds me of a flower. And I really like the way the black and the red mix together. And I do alternate which one's on top with the black and the red, but the jute I just do 2 in each section. When you get towards the end of the roll of mesh, it gets super curly, so that's why it's helpful to put something heavy on it. When you're curling your curls, you want to make sure you're tucking the edges in. I don't know if you could see on this one, the left side had a piece of mesh sticking out. That makes your ruffles look really messy. If you keep everything tucked in nice and even on the edges, it makes everything look nice and even and clean and pretty. And again, I'm doing horizontally, and then I twist it 1.5 times, and this time I put red on the bottom instead of the black. And I'll show you one more time really quick. This black mesh did not want to cooperate with the curl part once I got to the really curly part of the mesh, so I had to work with it a little bit. But to me it's really important to make sure you keep those sides tucked in because it makes it look super messy. I'm not adding any ribbon, but you could add ribbon into this if you wanted to. I'm just going to go ahead and curl down the pipe cleaners. I use a glue stick and curl each pipe cleaner down, or you can just tuck them around to the back or trim them away, whichever way you want to do it. And then I'm just going to show you the inside. I do the exact same way as the outside. I just create an X. Okay, so the most important part of doing the center, or when you do the center, is the way you fluff it. You want to make sure you fluff to the right, or the left, I'm sorry, to the left when you have other poofs already there, and to the outside. So you want to make sure every piece of mesh is nice and fluffed out. And here you can kind of see I'm going through and making sure everything's up, nothing's pushed back. And that way you get to see all your pretty mesh. So since I didn't add ribbons into each section, I wanted to make a really good bow. So I'm going to use 4 different colors or 4 different ribbons. For the base, I'm going to do this red with black glitter polka dots. And I'm using my bow dabra and my mat to help me measure. So I'm doing 6-inch loops for the red and black. So I take a piece of it, of the ribbon, and I twist it, make my first loop, and then each time I make a loop, I'm twisting. And I usually twist away from myself. I don't know if that makes a difference, but it's just a habit. And then I just push it up to make sure it's the same length. And the one on the right was a little bit too big, so I just pulled just a tiny bit, and then I twist it away from me. And I push down as I go. Because I'm going to be adding a lot more ribbon, I definitely want to press it down. I believe the bow dabra originally came with a thing that pushes down in the center. I didn't have that. I bought mine secondhand. I think it was at a thrift store. But I'm pretty sure it comes with something that you can put in the center and push it down. So that's really helpful. I do like to spread out my ribbons as I go. For me, this helps me not get the middle too thick, because it's already going to be super thick when you pull it off. And you'll see that here in a second. So I'm going to do 3 on each side, and I'm just using the original loops to help guide me how big to make each loop. The next ribbon I'm using is really cute. It's a burlap color ribbon. It's like a canvas ribbon. I love canvas ribbon. And it's the burlap color, and it has ladybugs instead of polka dots. Thought it was so cute. And all the ribbon I use is wired. I'm doing these loops slightly smaller, so I do about 5.5-inch loops. And again, I just like to measure the first ones. You can measure each one as you go if you'd like. I don't find it necessary. You can just line it up beside the one that's already been measured. And honestly, once I measure the base, I can just kind of guess how big the loops are after that. I don't actually take any measurements from that point. And I'm going to do 3 on each side as well. You can see I cut a little bit away. Like you can still see that there's a good bit of ribbon there. I'll go through and trim that away later. I just do that so it doesn't accidentally get pulled through. I would say it's about 4 inches, maybe 5 inches for the loops. Because if I did 6 and then 5.5, so those would be 5 inches. I'm only going to do 2 on each side because I'm going to fill in the third, or what would be the third loop, with the polka dot, this burlap polka dot ribbon. And this is actual like burlap ribbon with red polka dots. And I'm doing them at the same length as the black. But I'm also going to make a little center loop. And you can play around with it and figure out how big you want the little centerpiece to be, or you can just not have a centerpiece. Alright, now that I'm done adding ribbon to the actual bow, I'm going to slide a zip tie underneath, wrap it around. I'm going to pull it a little bit tight, lift it out, and then I'm going to move it to the center of the bow. You can see how thick it is there. Pull the zip tie around to the back, and then I feed a pipe cleaner through the back of the bow. And this just gives me a way to attach it to the wreath. And if you're making bows at like Christmas for people to attach to their banisters or anything like that, you can do it this way as well, because they can use the pipe cleaners to attach it. And now I'm just going to go through and trim all of the long pieces of ribbon. I like to do my tails afterwards so I have more control over them. Okay, so to fluff my bow, I'm going to hold the pipe cleaners in my hand, and I'm sticking my other hand inside a loop, and I'm pulling it where I want it to be while opening my fingers. And I'm kind of trying to create like a circle with the base ribbons, and then with the ones on top, I will try to put each loop in between those two. At first, you're just kind of opening everything up and getting it moving. But then you can go back and be very particular about where you put things. You can fluff a bow for a very, very long time. You just kind of have to stop as soon as you think it looks good. Because I will even keep fluffing mine once they're on the actual wreath. And that's something you'll want to do if you're making a wreath for yourself, and then you put it up and pull it out, like at Christmas or summer. You'll want to fluff your bows the same way you did when you made them. And I'm just making sure my zip tie is super tight, and I'm just trimming that away. So the way I like to add my tails is I will go ahead and measure out how long I want them to be with the ribbon, and then I'll go ahead and have it cut and ready to go. I'll try to find the center, and then I'll pinch it at that point, and then I just kind of fold it forward so the pretty sides of the ribbon are both facing up. I'm not dovetailing the ends of these because I want to curl up the bottom, so I didn't cut the ends, so I wanted to make them as even as possible. You just stick it into the pipe cleaner and then twist 3 or 4 times, and then you'll just pull it down into place. Wire ribbon is really easy to work with and super forgiving. For the most part, it will go where you want it to go. Now I'm just going to lay everything on my wreath and figure out where I want to place everything. I knew I wanted my bow in the corner, and then I decided to put my ladybug to the right and the sign above. This particular sign came with the tie upside down. The rope was on the wrong side of the sign, so I just cut it away. And now I'm just stapling my pipe cleaners, and that's how I attach it to my wreath. I usually do 2 staples and then twist 3 times just to secure it. You could also use glue if you wanted to. So for the metal one, I just decided to attach it to the part, it's kind of like the neck, in between the head and the body. And this was enough to securely attach it to the wreath, which was nice. I didn't have to glue anything. So to add everything, I'm just going to feed the pipe cleaners through to the back and then attach them to the frame. Depending on how you want things to sit on your wreath, you will either push it in between the mesh straight to the frame, or you can feed it through the mesh. I find that when you push in between the mesh, it kind of sinks it down into the wreath a little bit. You can see that this bow, I kind of sunk it into the wreath. With the signs, I like it to sit above, so I will go through the actual mesh. And it just kind of keeps it fluffed up. It's got like a cushion there. And I will go back after I'm done and make sure there's no pipe cleaners sticking out of the back. And the great thing about using pipe cleaners is you can always move things around once you're done if you're not happy with the way it looks. You can play with it until you are happy. And now my little ladybug. I just really like how this wreath turned out. I thought it was super cute. And it's nice to do something different. I usually always add ribbon to all of my wreaths, but I wanted to try something different. And I know everyone has different tastes, so it's nice when you're selling wreaths to have something for everyone. So for these tails, since they're 2-inch and 1.5-inch ribbons, I curled the bottoms, and you just basically just curl it up like you would like a fruit roll up, and then they just kind of hang down. But that's it. That's how I made my welcome ladybug wreath. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, or you can email me at craftingwithlee@yahoo.com. Thanks so much for watching, and if y'all learned anything today or like my video, please like, share, and subscribe, and give me a thumbs up.